Hey! Welcome to the 11th lesson on C++. Throughout this lesson, we will explore the topic of function overloading in the C++ programming language. Before delving into function overloads, let's first build a small program. Later on, based on this program, we'll be able to explore the topic of function overloads. The first thing I'd like to do in my program is to create a function called print. That takes an argument of type string. All this function will do is display on the screen the parameter we pass to it. This function will be handy for quickly outputting something to the screen. Suppose I want to quickly display some text. I can go to the main function and call our print function with any message. Now, let's create another function. This function will also not return anything and will be named add. It will take two integers, a and b. The purpose of this function will be to create a variable where we store the result of adding the two numbers. Then, I'd like to display this result on the screen. To display the result on the screen, I could certainly use the standard function for outputting text, but right now, I want the result to be output through the print function. However, if we write it like this, the program highlights an error. The error is quite logical because in our print function, I accept a string, and now when I call it, I'm trying to pass a number instead of a string. Naturally, because the data types are different, an error occurs. How can we solve this problem? The first and most obvious way is to create two functions. Let the first one be called print string, and the second one be called print int. In the second function, I will take an integer, and in the first function, I will take a string. In this case, in the add function, I can call print int, and in the main function, I can call print string in the add function. And of course, if we run this, it will work correctly. You'll notice that both the string and the result of the addition will be displayed on the screen. In general, everything seems to be working correctly. We've resolved the situation, but what's the problem now? The problem now is that I have to remember two different names for functions, and depending on what I want to pass to the function, I have to recall which name corresponds to the function I need. Agree that this is not very convenient. It would be much more convenient if we could use the same name and, depending on the parameter we pass to the function, the appropriate function would be selected. And that's exactly what we can achieve with function overloads. In fact, function overloading is implemented very simply. Look, we can just specify one name for our functions, let it be just print. But as you can see, because they take different types of parameters, one takes a string type, and the other takes an int, these functions do not interact with each other, and essentially, this piece of code does not produce any errors. In essence, we have achieved function overloading. We have a function that takes a string, but we also have a function with the same name that takes a number. Now I don't have to remember different function names. I can always refer to the same name, and depending on what I pass there, the appropriate function will be called. And of course, if we run the program, we'll notice that everything works correctly again, and no errors occur. To sum up on this matter, function overloading is convenient because we can create multiple functions with the same name. Due to the fact that we either accept different data types or different numbers of parameters, our functions do not conflict with each other. This makes it easy to call functions using a single function name. And the same can be done for absolutely all functions. For instance, the add function can be modified in the same way. Currently, it takes two parameters. Now I will create another function with the same name that will take three parameters. The purpose of this function will be to add the third parameter to the res variable, and then display the entire result on the screen. Let's add a call to the newly added add function in the main function, but this time we'll pass three parameters. The program will automatically choose the appropriate add function that contains three parameters. In other words, overloading occurs not only based on different data types but also based on whether you pass more or fewer parameters. These two add functions are distinct. Let's try running everything and make sure the program works correctly. you'll notice that now we have 3 outputs of information. Our program now has multiple functions, all with overloading. Because of this, we can call them using the same name without worrying about which name to use for calling a particular function. And overall, our lesson comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Until we meet again, goodbye.